Good morning to everybody, and thank you for joining us for this webinar, which is all about the new government Kickstart Scheme. I'm delighted to be joined today by Ben Grunberg, partner at Grunberg & Co. So good morning, Ben. And we're also joined by guest speaker Krissie Nicolson. Now, Krissie is from the East End Trades Guild, who Grunbergs have partnered with to be able to deliver the Kickstart Scheme to their clients. So a very warm welcome to you, Krissie, as well. We are going to have a Q&A session at the end of the presentation today. So if you're familiar with Zoom, please use the Q&A tool on your Zoom toolbar. That will enable you to enter your questions as we go along, and we'll try and answer as many as we can at the end of the session today. We are also recording this webinar, so we will make an on-demand version of this should you need to recap on any of the points made, and that will be put onto the Grunberg website at the end of the day today. So I'd now like to hand over initially to Krissie, who's going to tell us a bit more about the East End Trades Guild and introduce us to the scheme, and then Ben, you'll pick up from there. So over to you, please, Krissie.
Thanks very much, Jo. Thank you very much for having me here today. I'm really pleased to be joining you. So yes, my name is Krissie Nicolson. I'm the Chief Executive of the East End Trades Guild, which is an alliance of over 300 small and independent businesses in East London. Effectively, we are there to work on the common interests of our members. So we work with active guild members to listen to the membership to find out what are the common themes, what is most important to our members, and then we take action together on those issues. So one example of that, as I'm sure you'll all be very familiar with, unfortunately, is the rent crisis in London. Even before the pandemic hit, rents were inflated and going up at such a rate that even the most viable businesses were really struggling to get by. So what we've been doing is working with our members to build their power, to set up tenant groups. So we supported the fantastic Lenny Jones from Guardians of the Arches to establish her own independent organisation so that they have more power to negotiate with the Archcoat and with TfL. And we're working with some different tenant groups now to enable them to negotiate with their landlords and to work with local councils to bring them to the table. It's very challenging work for our members in the context that they're operating in, but they're doing an incredible job. And I think if ever there was going to be a time when the way that commercial rents were organised differently, it's now. I think we have an opportunity in this time of unprecedented upheaval to really create something fair for small businesses within London. So we have managed to, in the short time that we've put forward our Affordable Workspace Manifesto 2 years ago, we've managed to help shape local plans to reduce rents within new developments. So Hackney reduced their definition of affordable from 80% of market rent down to 60% in broader Hackney area, and even lower down to 40% in Shoreditch. So that's really quite a significant change. In addition, we've been working with the Spitalfields Neighbourhood Planning Forum, where we've managed to put forward a policy for small businesses, which means that any new developments in that area will be 55% of market rent. But we're also looking at other innovative models, including turnover rents, which is picking up some traction now. We're working with our partners in New Economics Foundation to who've been doing some really interesting research on actually how rent reductions are beneficial for the whole economy, including the landlords, and we'll be launching those policy recommendations early in the new year, and that's going to be really exciting. We're going to make some big noise about that. I could go on for a very long time, but I'll just finish on another initiative that we've just launched this week, which is the East End's answer to Amazon, if you like. So we know that landlords need to be, well, some landlords are doing a great job, and other landlords need to be doing more to kind of share the pain of the pandemic, but we also have a new online store, the East End store, which is eastend.store, and our members are working to create an online marketplace so that people can buy really distinctive, really good quality local products and help really support that community wealth and help small businesses recover from what is the worst recession on record. We've got a whole host of other stuff, including Kickstart. We're really open to you being a part of the guild, even if you're not in East London. We are registered as a London Trades Guild, and we will be kind of growing what we're doing across London. So if you're not registered in East London, that's fine. Sign up, become a member, and hopefully we can work with you on Kickstart Scheme as well.
Thank you very much, Krissie. Thank you. And now over to the Kickstart Scheme. So it's a little known scheme which the government brought out during the COVID pandemic, which is really geared towards bringing youth unemployment down and bringing people who are mainly placed between 16 and 24 years old back into employment. Now, this scheme is normally only available to employers looking to recruit 30 or more placements. But by partnering with the East End Trade Guild that we have, we're able to offer the scheme to their guild members and to our clients who might only be looking to place 1 or 2 people under the scheme, which is a great opportunity for not just for the employees, the individuals, but for businesses to help grow them, for you to grow with the support of the government. So how the scheme works is it's as a representative agency, we are able to offer this to employers of all sizes. And the funding that the government will provide is for 100% of the national minimum wage or the national living wage, depending on the age of the participant, up to 25 hours a week for a total of 6 months. On top of that, the government will pay the national insurance contributions and any employer's minimum automatic enrolment contributions, which is the pension schemes. And finally, they will provide a £1,500 grant per placement to support the employee's development, to support the training of that employee and any administrative costs for that employee. So that's £1,500 per employee as opposed to for the scheme as a whole. Now, obviously, you can pay a higher amount than the national living wage. That's your choice, but obviously bear in mind that the government will only rebate you for the national minimum wage. And so you're aware of how the funding works. The £1,500 is upfront payment when the employee starts, when they join the company, whereas the rebates for the salaries, national insurance, and pensions, much like the furlough scheme, will happen after the end of each month. Now, the scheme will initially prioritise the young people between 16 and 24 who are ready for an opportunity, and they'll be supported by the local job centre to assist them in enrolling in the scheme. Now, in this sense, they have to be registered with a job centre in order to be employed under the scheme. But of course, like any employee, like any job placement, it is for the employer to choose to interview, to select the employee who's best suited for them. Now, once in place, the funding, the £1,500, for example, is to be made available to the employer to support the development of the new skills and to help them move into more sustained employment once they've completed their placement. And that's really key, because part of the application process is that you must identify what you will be doing as part of this recruitment to support their development and what support you'll be offering. And one of the main key things here is in terms of making them, the employee, the individual, suitable for long-term employment once they've finished their contract with you. And that is helping them with interview skills, CV writing potentially, and providing some sort of training within the working environment to give them kind of the exposure to help them take that next step. And as part of this application, you have to identify what you'll be doing how long it will take, who will provide the support, how you will monitor it, and how the young person can provide feedback to you and to DWP, the Department for Work and Pensions. Now, as part of the link with the East End Trades Guild, they have a great connection with the local boroughs, the local authorities, and they themselves have great training programs which they're providing to individuals under the Kickstart scheme, so that the individuals can not just get the training in-house, but can get training from local authorities to really make them to take the next step after your placement has ended. Now, the eligibility criteria is pretty loose. You have to provide a job which is 25 hours a week as minimum for 6 months, pay at least the national minimum wage, and only require basic training in order to actually take the role. Now, the main point about the scheme is it's very open to to individuals to join. It must be with basic training, really open to the wider community. But the idea being that once they've finished the scheme, that they've got some more training, some enhanced experience and skills that can help them in the future. Now, obviously, at the end of the 6-month period, you can choose to hire those that show potential. You can let them go on their way to the next job. You can also roll this contract so that after the 6 months, you can hire another employee and another one. But the one thing you must bear in mind, this scheme is for new placements. They must not replace existing or planned vacancies, and they must not cause existing employees, apprentices, or contractors to lose work or reduce their working hours. So the real key thing here is those who are on furlough, these employees cannot be there as a replacement. So you cannot keep your employees on furlough whilst you bring in someone on the Kickstart scheme to do their work. Some, unfortunately, have made redundancies over the last few months. These employees cannot be brought in to replace redundancies. These must be new jobs created by the scheme to really help grow businesses. So the key thing here is that the way to think about it is these jobs wouldn't have existed if not for the Kickstart scheme and the funding that's coming with that. Sorry, I'm moving this, I haven't been moving the slides, apologies. So as part of the application process, you'll need to outline the main changes to the workforce in the last 6 months and why, the kind of roles, functions, and the average salaries of those who've been made redundant, had their hours reduced in the last 6 months. And if you'd been able to create these job placements without the Kickstart scheme, what sort of funding would you have used? What recruitment you've completed, started, or paused in the last 6 months, and how these vacancies and are or were to the roles, how similar these vacancies are or were to the roles you've created in the Kickstart scheme. If the job placements will be similar to existing and planned roles, the roles previously done by those made redundant or with fewer working hours, why are you using the Kickstart scheme to create similar roles? So again, the real key point here is that you're currently recruiting for, if you're currently recruiting for a role, you can't put that on pause to recruit under the Kickstart scheme. And the Kickstart scheme must be in addition to the employees that you currently have. So in terms of timeline, this is the great thing about the scheme is it's open until December 2021. So you might not need an employee right now, but you might have the want or the kind of the thought of bringing someone on board over the next year, which could really help grow the business. You might look at marketing campaigns, sales campaigns, things that you might really want an extra hand to help with the growth of the business. Now, this is a great opportunity to employ via the Kickstart scheme, give the support to the young person, and obviously make use of the funding that's available to you as an employer. As I said before, after the job placements end, you can hire a different individual. You obviously can't rehire the same individual under the Kickstart scheme, but you can have this 6-month rolling contract or choose to keep that person employed once they've finished the contract with you. Now, most of you are familiar with running a payroll, but for those who aren't, you must be running a payroll to employ someone under the Kickstart scheme. Simple setup. You must register with HMRC for PAYE scheme before the first payday. Thereafter, you must adhere to real-time information, RTI reporting, and send regular submissions, which are called full payment submissions to revenue, with the tax and national insurance paid by the 22nd of the following month. Now, again, with furlough, similar to furlough, the government will be paying reimbursing you the cost of the employees' salaries, national insurance, and pensions. And one would hope that that comes in sufficient time for the 22nd, so that there's limited impact to cash flow. Now, of course, the initial £1,500 can be used to help set up a payroll scheme, can be used to help fund the training if you wanted to. And some are thinking about using that as a tool to use for the cash flow to begin with. Now, in addition to running a payroll, you also have to think about workplace pensions. Again, some of you are familiar with this, but for those who aren't, a workplace pension is there to encourage employees to save for retirement, and the amount contributed to the scheme will depend on the type of scheme in place, and the age and the amount of earnings the individual is getting. But where an employee is automatically enrolled, the minimum contributions are 3% paid for by the employer and 5% paid by the employee. Now, again, under the Kickstart scheme, where the individual is automatically enrolled and there is a requirement to pay pensions, then this 3% will be reimbursed by the government up to the 25-hour a week for the 6 months that they are employed. Now, to give you a bit of a summary, you'll see here that there's different criteria depending on the age of the employee and the amount they're being paid. Go through that in a second of how that impacts the actual Kickstart scheme, but the real main variances here, the main things to take into account is the difference between opting in, the right to opt in, and must be enrolled. Now, when the right to join and opt in is that there is no mandatory employer contributions to right to join. So in this instance, then the revenue will not be reimbursing the employer for the pension contributions because there's no requirement. However, where they must be enrolled, of course, the Kickstart will be reimbursing that pension contributions. So to see how that works in practice and in principle, how it impacts the Kickstart scheme. Now, obviously, under the Kickstart scheme, you're only required to pay the national minimum wage or living wage, and so you can see here the figures are based on that. Under the age of 18, the monthly gross earnings would be £493. So the employer has the employer's responsibility has the right. The employee has the right to join a pension scheme, but does not have the right to opt in, it mustn't automatically be enrolled. And then 18 to 21, they had the right to opt in, and after the age of 22, based on the national minimum wage, they must be enrolled. Now, again, an example here for the London living wage, if you wanted to pay someone the London living wage, which is obviously a voluntary top-up of this scheme, you can see the impact and the difference between what the monthly gross earnings would be under the London living wage as compared to the minimum wage. And again, I would emphasize that that difference is something that the company would have to pay. And obviously the national insurance and the pension contributions on that element would be something that the company is voluntarily choosing to pay. Now, again, these figures here are based on 25 hours a week. Now, workplace pensions are quite relatively straightforward to set up, but there is a process that needs to go through, which is you need to choose the pension scheme, write to the staff, to declare your compliance to the revenue, and for those who haven't done this before, there's a great tool for employers at the pension regulator's website. Now, that's really everything around the Kickstart scheme and the kind of what needs to be done. I think the main points to emphasize, as I said before, are the employees must be, the roles must be new. They must be there to help the development of the employee, as well as obviously be something that helps with the development of the company. So if you have any questions, any thoughts, if you're looking to employ someone under the Kickstart scheme, it's a great opportunity to bring someone on board who is funded by the revenue, and you can help with the development of their future. Please do get in touch. I'm going to bring Joe back on and see if we have any questions.
Hi, Ben. Yeah, I think somebody's dropped an email actually, because they've missed the slide about the age requirements. So age 1 and 2 to qualify for the Kickstart scheme.
So the age is 16 to 24. So the government have made it, the point of the scheme is it's mainly towards young people who are unemployed. I believe, as I understand it, that the scheme will be opened up to those who are outside that 16 to 24 bracket, if there's no suitable candidates for those roles. But the main point of the scheme is to help young unemployed. And so those people who are already registered with the Job Centre on universal credits, and they get priority into applying for the scheme.
Yeah, I noticed on the news this morning as well, when they were talking about the number of redundancies, that it's that age gap, 16 to 24, but then 50 to 65. Do you think the government will have any plans to bring in a similar scheme for those over 50 as a result of the redundancy age gap that was announced this morning?
I'd like to hope so, but there's nothing that I've heard of talk about it at the moment. I think they're very key to focus on young unemployed, and that's the terminology they keep using. So I would be surprised. I haven't heard anything about the older age gaps, unfortunately, but it would be great to see something like that come through.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think the key thing about the youth unemployed is that, and the questions that we've had before, is that you might know someone who's unemployed and who might not already be on universal credits. They can apply to the scheme and they can choose the job that they might want to apply for. So if you know someone who fits that role, and you can guide them through the Job Centre to apply for the scheme indirectly. There is no, as I say, the scheme must be open to those who are unemployed, who are on universal credits, and those who've been on universal credits for a long period of time are given priority. But it's as for the employer to choose who the right candidate is for the role.
Okay. We do have another question in. The £1,500 grant that would be paid, is that paid to you as the representative agency or directly to the employer?
So that's paid to the. So how it works with the representative agency is the representative agency will get £300 per placement to fund and support the administration of the scheme as a whole. And the individual companies will get £1,500 towards each placement. Now, as a representative agent, all funds, including the £1,500 and the reimbursements of the employees' salaries and national insurance, get paid to the representative agents. Agents then have to facilitate that to the employers directly. So, in essence, that £1,500 does go directly to an employer, but via the representative as part of the scheme process.
Okay, thank you. And a question here from Maurice. What type of company can apply? Does this apply to self-employed, partnerships, one-person, limited company, etc.?
Now, unfortunately, this only applies to limited companies. There's companies registered at Companies House and to companies who have a PAY scheme set up. So obviously you don't have to have a scheme set up now in order to make that application, but you will need to have the PAY scheme set up as part of the process. Now, we understand, unlike the furlough scheme, there is not intended to be monthly submissions for accessing the rebates, and that the rebates will actually be based on the employee's RTI submissions, so the real-time submissions which are submitted by the employer every month. And off the back of that, they will know when whether the employee is still employed, and ensure that the money is kind of directed on that basis. Now, obviously, as part of the RTI submissions, it's kind of a chicken and egg scenario where when the employer is first employed, to get that £1,500, you need to be notifying the DWP as part of putting that in place.
Okay, thank you. And a secondary question from Morris, which I think is probably aimed more at you, Krissie, than Ben. Can the training be put together by the company itself, and how does that get accepted?
Yes, if you think that you're in the strongest position to create the best training for your employee, then you are able to do that. You just have to make sure you're very clear with whoever you choose as your representative agent, how you're going to meet the criteria for training. So there's a set of criteria that the government would like you to meet at a minimum. I don't have the full criteria in front of me. I'm not sure if Ben does, but that's definitely something we can forward on to you.
Okay, I think the main aspects of that is that the employee is you are helping the employee with secondary employment. In essence, after the schemes come to an end, that they are in best position to get sustained employment, and that is helping them with CV writing, helping them with interview skills, and ensuring that they've developed some form of skill, whether it's just the work from being in the work environment or a specific skill as part of the 6-month training, the 6-month contract, so that would help assist them sustain employment.
I mean, it's very basic employability skills that they're looking to develop in the young person. So I would suspect that most businesses would be providing quite a lot additional value than what the government is asking for. Yeah. But so long as you can meet that minimum criteria, then you can demonstrate how you'll do that, then you can do your own training.
Okay, thank you very much.
Just to add on to that, as I said before, the local authorities have got some great training programs which they're offering in parallel to the Kickstart scheme. So you could jump onto the back of one of those and send the employee to that training program. But I would highlight that the 25-hour minimum contributions and the contract, it covers the training time. So the training time must be included in that. So just bear in mind that any training time, whether it's external or internal, should be encompassed within that 25 hours a week.
Okay. All right. Well, if anybody's got any further questions, obviously you can see Ben and Krissie's emails up on screen in front of you now. So I'm sure they'll be happy to take any further emails or questions that you have. Just remains for me to say thank you very much, Ben. Thank you very much, Krissie. Very informative. As I said earlier, a copy of the video recording will be available on Grunberg's website a bit later on today. And thank you very much. See you soon, hopefully.